Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Waifu Watch Podcast. We're here to make sure you don't waste your Crunchyroll subscription since the worst year ever is finally coming to an end.
Almost. We're recording this right before the end of New Year.
Yes,
Soon.
after a long and extended break of 2 weeks, we're back.
Yay!
And we're here to do our end of fall 2016 wrap up, followed by our year-ending award show, which will be coming out later in the month of January. So, get excited for that. But in the meantime, we've got to cover some shows. We had a lot of good shows this season, but we had a lot of bad shows. So, aptly, we're going to be starting, as always, as with last season, with the low tier first, then our mid tier, then our high tier. You're going to be surprised with some of the placings this time around, so we'll get to that. But first, we're going to cover the shows that were bad, low tier.
Pretty uncontroversially bad, I think. Except for one. But
we'll get to it. But for kicking out the low tier, so none of us actually watched Matoi except for Mia, and she only watched like 2.5 episodes, I think.
I couldn't get past that. Here's the thing. Matoi had a lot of promised me because, like, you know, I saw it, I was like, oh, it's a magical girl, her design's super cute, it looks colorful, it looks like it's gonna be fun, she uses a sword and all that. There you have this interesting different take that she uses like an aspect of like Shinto religion as part of her like whole magical girl shtick, so that'll be really interesting. But then they came in and they made one of like the reoccurring jokes in the show to be like her being embarrassed, sort of, or harassed physically by other people.
Similarly, almost to Kumamiko, where it was going to be pure and then they fucked it.
Yep.
Yes.
That's unfortunate. That's just real unfortunate.
When you're making a magical girl show, you should not have a recurring gag be the main character being sexually assaulted by her father, alright?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have it. I'm not gonna have it.
After her first transformation, the whole thing is like, and I mentioned this before when we reviewed the first episode, the whole gag is that her dad thinks that she's her mom and like goes over and gives her a hug and then touches her boobs. And it's just like, yikes.
Yikes.
Yeah, we're not touching this with a 10-foot pole. So Matsoi is just gonna stay mercifully unranked for now.
And that's without going into her annoying friend and like all the other shit in the show. Like, God.
So we'll just accept that this is just one of those things that was just like, yep, we only watched like a millisecond of this, but just as a reminder, hey, the show
it was bad.
Incest is bad. So is sexual assault.
Stop.
Quit that.
Alright, so now let's get on to actual ranking, and starting this off, you thought we were done with this show when we just...
Y'all motherfuckers thought we were done.
No. I have some things to say about Occultic 9. So, here's the thing. I was actually rather excited to watch this show when I was looking at the premise, seeing all the previews for stuff like... Well, that's until the previews came out. Yep. But, like, up until that point, I thought the show was going to be pretty alright. It was going to be at least a show that can catch my interest. And then the previews came out, and I saw the fucking why. And
there's something like I posted on Twitter of some article, I don't know on what website, that was like, why you should watch The Shadows in Occultic 9, and they featured a picture of Titty Chad mid-jump with her boobs like straight up covering her nose, being like, how am I supposed to look at the shadows if I can't see over my own breast? And that's basically Occultic 9. It wanted to be
fucking
good.
Show is bad, people. Holy crap.
Like, here's the thing. Like, okay, unfortunately, maybe in another season, Occultic 9 would have gotten more attention from me and others. Unfortunately, like a couple of other shows, it was airing at the same time as a lot of other good shows. So getting around to actually watching more of it just became a chore and unpleasant.
Yeah.
Because there were just too many characters that were not very interesting. The fast talking that was just not helpful at all.
Yeah, well, to be fair, that did have some high points. For one thing, the direction, especially in the early episodes, oh my god, like, it's actually really well directed and actually pretty well animated in spots. And the opening and ending, Jesus Christ,
so good.
They're like legit contenders for opening and ending of the year, and it makes me mad because it's attached to this fucking show. Like, are you kidding me?
It makes me kind of sad, because it just makes me kind of sad because, like, I know it's based on, like, light novels and stuff, but, like, when the only character I care about is Arya, who's, like, the creepy medium girl, like, fucking around with all the other characters and having this, like, regular high school NEET as the main character.
Still mad.
That's a fucking contradiction. You can't have a main character that has that big of a contradiction. That just, once again, the problems that this show has is just, why do they exist? First of all,
it suffers from light novelism.
It really does.
Which is...
This isn't just a victim of a bad adaptation. This is a victim of just bad choices from the light novel in general. Because, like...
You know what wasn't a bad choice from the light novel, though? The too much titty.
Yeah, like...
That was a choice they made.
It's really weird, because the first preview that I saw, and the preview that I was really... Because I didn't watch this show at all, because I saw the preview and I was like, ha-ha, I'm out of here. But there were two of them. There was a preview for the next, like, edition of the light novel, or the next book.
Yeah.
And that one was like, we got a bunch of cool graphic stuff, we got a bunch of, cute girls with completely normal breast sizes, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, this looks kind of cool. If the show is like this, it'll be fine. And then it's like, you look at the preview for this show, and it's like, everyone's gained 6 inches to their bust and stopped wearing a bra. And I'm like, why? The thing is, like, this was applied universally across the board. Every character got, like, 2 extra cup sizes. I mean, not the guys, but... It was just weird.
It just does not make any goddamn sense.
It was like they were like, you know what? People aren't gonna pay attention to all this talking, so let's just give them huge tits.
Well, okay, and that's another big problem with the show. I'm a huge Monogatari stan, so I could deal with fast talking. I actually could not keep up with how fast they were going through important details in this show. There's a difference between having a conversation at a pretty brisk pace and just trying to cram as much information trying to cram as much information into as little as you can in a sentence. That just, it's bad form, and it just does not work. I just could not pay attention to anything. Nothing. I like kept losing focus during episodes. Everything, you could clearly tell that this was trying to cram like lots and lots of content into a very short amount of time span, and that's always just a recipe for goddamn disaster. Like, when the fuck are people gonna learn? Take your time. Pacing is a tool that you can use.
I was gonna say,
sometimes you can go fast if you're Tatami Galaxy, but
yeah, but
I was gonna say this show could have really used like a good, like, basically like a script editor saying, you know what? How about we just cover Arya's story because it's the most compelling just from the get-go.
That is true.
Honestly, I would have watched that entirely all the way through. It's just that her story pushed to the background of the high school NEET story is not interesting at all.
Yeah. And it brings down the whole of a show as one, and it is just a huge detriment. It basically just shoots itself in the foot, and for that reason our final verdict is a 0 out of 5. It's really not worth a watch, even for, honestly, if you want to go look up the opening and the ending, please feel free to, because no exaggeration, the opening and ending are absolutely fantastic and at least worth a watch. But the rest of the show, unless this is like appealed to your specific demographic, I really cannot.
And body horror doesn't offend you.
Yeah, and body horror does not offend you. I just cannot recommend this to anybody.
Honestly, like, I would just watch it on mute. Just watch it on mute. Like, just put it on in the background and be like, oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, you know what? This would be like a good kind of like cafe style thing to except for the titty. I realized, you know what? No, this is actually not a really good animated showcase in a public place. I just realized that.
It's better than Keijo, though, to be fair.
Yeah,
better than Keijo.
That is true, but we will get to that. So
Keijo's at least more intentional.
That's Occultic 9. Okay, now on to our next item on the list. Trickster. You thought we were done with this,
Trickster.
Too.
So I wanted to talk about Trickster because I watched 4 episodes of it, and I'm like, yo, we should at least talk about the shit that we like got past the 3 episodes for, and then discarded. I discarded Trickster because I got bored, basically. But
as did I.
Yeah, there are other problems with it besides me getting bored. So, starting off with sort of on a positive note with the good things about it. I mean, as exemplified by this background thing that we've chosen, Trickster can be pretty.
Yeah.
Like, at least the character designs were done by Peach Pit, and Peach Pit is a competent artist.
Yeah.
So,
That's the one thing that drew me into this series in the first place, and they did a really good job of kind of making them unique.
Yeah, there's lots of visual contrast, lots of, like, bright and fun colors. The line art is very well done. The main characters can have a cute dynamic. The first couple episodes I referred to them as definitely not Gon and definitely not Killua, which is not fair to Killua, but is a little bit fair to Gon. And that's a good dynamic. I mean, no, seriously, really what that means is that Orange Jumpsuit Kun is, like, considerably a better character. Is actually what that means. And the one thing I will say that it did do that is actually quite difficult is it did a really good job of convincing me that telekinesis is a shitty power. Like, and that's hard because telekinesis is fucking good, but they did a really good job of convincing me that the main character power just blows. That being said, major problems.
A lot of cons.
One of the main characters just doesn't want to be here, and that's an issue because he doesn't want to be here. He's not compelled to be here, really, by any motivation.
He just wants to die.
But they have to act like he wants to be here somehow, because otherwise the show doesn't go on.
Yeah,
and so there's a lot of him doing stuff that's shoehorned in for plot convenience. And also, this show got ugly really fast. They had, like, some budget for the first episode, as all episodes do, and then it ran out. It got really ugly really fast, and that's a problem. Yoshio, who is the white-haired kid, is just so goddamn edgy.
It just moves back in onto the problem that he does not want to be here.
He doesn't want to be here.
So he just resorts to being the fucking Ow the Edge, the character, the book, the game, the horror story.
He's just, like, when he's being petulant, it's cute. And when he's being edgy, you're like, oh my god, can you shut the fuck up?
It gets old real fucking
horrible.
quick.
Like, it's kind of like, are you okay? And he's like, I've never been okay once a day in my entire life. And you're just like, oh my god, chill.
But really, like, I think even more than Yoshio being so goddamn edgy, which is, like, very important, I think the big nail in the coffin is this show just doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I picked some, like, relatively inconsequential stuff to show this because it's funny, but, like, on a fundamental level, like, who are these people? Why are they here? None of this is explained. It's not even really artsy in the way that Flip Flap does it. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
It really just doesn't.
But for the two things I pointed out, why does Professor X still use the wheelchair? He's walking around just fine in the first 2 episodes, gets his leg fucked up by Yoshio, which is fine. He's in the wheelchair for like an episode.
It's a robot leg.
And then he gets his robot leg replaced, and he's still in the wheelchair. Dude, I know you can walk.
And then the fucking invisible umbrella
and then
squid.
The invisibility squid.
Maybe Professor X gets parking and he doesn't want to give that up.
Dumb. Stupid.
And it's just like a lot of stuff like that where the show just like doesn't bother trying to be consistent.
Yeah.
And it's a big issue.
It just hurt. Once again, it's just one of those things where it could have been interesting, but because it has these consistent flaws, it just shoots itself in the foot. So
yeah,
I wish I would have liked this a little bit more because I like Peach Pit and I like the idea of having like a modernized version of Ron Poe's mystery novels, but you know what? Poorly executed. So 0.5 out of 5. If you do like the kind of dynamic,
I would not recommend watching this to anybody. Really. Like, the thing is because this is not an atypical type of show.
Yeah.
You know, there is nothing that is particularly unique about the premise. So if you want to watch a show that's like this, there are plenty of other shows that are like this and are better.
Yes.
It gets the 0.5.
Spiral.
Yeah. It gets the 0.5 solely for convincing me that the main character's power sucks. Because there's a lot of, like, better shows that try to do that and fail. And this was a very bad show that did a really good job of that particular thing.
So, speaking of really bad shows, next.
Yikes.
Oh man.
All of the magical girls, the self-proclaimed magical girls, failed me this season.
I know. It was so funny. We were like looking at the preview for this season. I'm like, wow, this is gonna be a really great season for Mia. There's magical girls all over the fucking place. And then they were all garbage.
Oh, that's just like the biggest heartbreaker. I feel so sorry. Like I feel so sorry for you, especially for this one because this one had the most fucking promise.
I disagree. This one did not have the most promise, but that's okay.
Well, at least in my...
It promised to at least be better than this.
Yes, but...
Yes.
This show is a dumpster fire.
This show is a dumpster fire, but in the nature of the way that we do things, we should start out with the things that were good about it, because
Yes.
we're getting to the point where there were some good things.
Enough of good things to get me and Emily on board to watching the show.
Yes. Okay, so here's the thing. The whole premise of, like, you know, Hunger Games battle royale with magical girls is just like, it's an interesting premise. You're like, yeah, maybe I'll watch this. Maybe I'll give it a chance. But then it didn't really execute on that premise. Anyway, but more pros, sorry.
Yeah, well, we gotta go down all the pros and then we go down all the cons.
Yeah.
Right, sorry.
We'll make it.
The characters had interesting backstories.
Some of them.
Some of them. Not all of them, some of them. And then there was a lot of really interesting things they did with, like, the reveal of, like, oh, this is who they really are when they're not being a magical girl. They're just like, wow, cool.
Generally did better in the first half of the show. Pacing.
Yes. As it went on, the pacing started to creep a little.
Yeah.
Good fight scenes most of the time. I can't speak to the actual, like, animation quality of it because I was not paying attention for most of the fights, to be honest.
But at least the fights were interesting.
The fights themselves were okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were canon lesbians. There were 2 grown-up women who were lesbians.
Beautiful.
And
10 out of
confirmed
10.
to be a couple, so that's good. And also there's Calamity Mary, who was just a crazy bitch for, like, the first entire
Who was just a crazy jack-drinking bitch, and we loved her, and then some bad shit happened, and some bad shit happens gets us into the cons.
Yep.
Yes. So here's the thing. I said there was an interesting premise. They tried to bury the lead here, and they didn't come out and say, like, oh, guess what? Like, you're all gonna be fighting against each other to prove who's the strongest. They had to go with the whole, like, oh, but nobody really dies. They're just collecting candies type thing. And it's just like, listen, we know that's not the truth. Like, don't try and make this like a sort of, like, nod to the audience, like, yeah, you know what's really happening here, because it doesn't make the story any more interesting.
You've spent, like, 3 or 4 episodes doing this, and now the pacing for the entire latter half of the show is just fucked.
Yeah, on top of the fact that granted that the books were made before Madoka, but the fact that it looks...
felt Madoka-ish.
Yeah, it's like, so the audience knows what's up, so, like, just
Come on.
skip that step and let's get, like...
Let's get murdering, come on!
Yeah. The characters all had interesting well, not all of them. Some of the characters had interesting backstories, but these backstories would come in flashbacks after they died.
Well,
or
no, I think
shortly
it was
before they
shortly
died.
before was a lot more common. It basically... A reveal of it, the death flags were just way too obvious.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, oh, we get to see her backstory now. We know she's fucking dead.
Yeah, basically.
And it was like an attempt to make us, like, care about them more and care about their death. But if you really wanted us to care about them, you would have gone in, like, the first 3 episodes and given everyone's backstories.
Yeah.
And then started killing people.
That's the thing. I would have been... Like, people are saying, oh, you know, this is better than, like, an exposition fest at the beginning. I would have been totally happy with an exposition fest at the beginning.
That would actually...
It wouldn't have been out of character, either, for Snow White, who barely had a personality as was. But for her to be like, oh, hey, you know, like, blah, 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 what's your deal? I care about you.
Yes.
Like, that would not have been unreasonable. And you probably could have gotten out a lot of the, like, less interesting characters. Like, you could have gotten a lot of their backstories out earlier, so we had more time to get invested and give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another big issue, which is something that came up again and again with just the characters in general, because this is by the same, I don't know, artist or director who did Is the Order of Rabbit, everyone looks 5 years old. It's just like, am I looking at an adult woman? Am I looking at a 40-year-old? Am I looking at a 3-year-old? Who fucking knows?
We literally can't tell.
To be honest,
they had to state in universe that
only characters that I really could tell that were an adult, even when they were in their magical girl forms, the 2 I had, Calamity Mary, and even that she was pretty borderline, and Winter Prince.
She was drinking alcohol all the time.
Calamity Mary gets snaps for looking like an adult, like, out of her fucking transformation sequence, but that's because she's... Yeah.
And
naked.
And also Winter Prison's also the other one, because...
She's mature.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody else just looked, like, nebulously in middle school.
Yeah.
And
Angels didn't have feet.
Angels didn't have feet! Fucks my shit up, man. We talked about this, like, earlier on in the podcast, and we never actually got to come back and talk about it again. I actually looked it up. Like, canonically, the angels just don't have feet.
They just have nubs.
They just have nubs. They just have little nubs. They don't have feet. Who the fuck did this? Anyway.
Snow White is the main character, but unfortunately she's boring as fuck and everyone else dies.
Yeah.
And then we're left with just her and literally Ripple, whose majority of her dialogue until like the last 4 episodes has been and I don't care.
Yeah.
So like you can understand how like much I was like, what do I even have to come back to for these last few episodes?
It's just like everyone that's interesting is dead.
Yep.
Like, you know, in the beginning, they, like, killed off Neverend, who, like, Neverend really didn't get to do much, so, like, that's fine. She's probably the one exception. Other than that, the characters appear to have died in, like, order of interestingness.
Yep.
Most interesting dies first. And so it's like, you get to the end, and you're just like, alright, we got Swim, Ripple, and Snow White. Like, fuck. Like, maybe with a personality between the 3 of them.
No, yeah, maybe. Like, the one who's literally 5, the one who's, like, vaguely a tsundere, and the one who is I just love everyone.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And it's just
dumb.
Anyway.
And they even killed one of the interesting characters before they actually killed her.
Yeah, that's our last. Oh, that is our last con, and that's where we are. So basically, here's the deal: Calamity Mary was the lifeblood and the saving grace of this abysmally boring show, and then it comes out that she's a child abuser, and like, this is like a really personal gripe. So I don't, like, want to, you know... It's a very personal gripe, so I don't want to make a huge deal out of it as a con, but god fucking damn it, guys. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. She was the only interesting thing about the show, and then you made her just, like, way more of a scumbag than anyone should be comfortable with.
Like, she could be... Like, if she was just an alcoholic and her husband and child left her, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then it's just like, you even hit your own child.
And you're just like,
oh,
alright, goodbye.
I'm not here for that. I was never here for that. I don't want to be signed up for that.
Yeah.
How fucking dare you waste my time with this?
How fucking dare you? Yeah.
I'm gonna... There's the door. I can see myself out.
Goodbye.
So...
And that was when Joe and I both dropped it.
Yes. That's the price. That's the precise moment. I mean, I stayed on to see how Calamity Mary got fucked, and that was just... I mean, at that point, it really just kind of...
Which was also bullshit.
Yeah, it just sucked all the enjoyment out of it.
They had to neuter her death because of rating, so
Yeah.
I don't want to, like... I don't necessarily want to, like, snipe them for that, because, like, I watched Hunter x Hunter, so
Yeah.
I've seen the magical glitter wounds. Sometimes you just have to do things.
Yeah. Like, this just is a big sack of disappointment, and I was...
That being said, it was at least actually a show with a plot.
That is
and therefore,
very true.
And therefore, it goes over the other ones.
Yes, so for that reason alone, and because Calamity Mary was as good for as long as she was, Magical Girl Raising Project, we're giving a final score of 2 out of 5. It handled
the distribution of like the ensemble cast rather well, unlike Occultic 9.
That is
which
true.
Handled it very poorly. Like, because we know Snow White is very uninteresting, we don't follow her all the time. We're following literally everyone else.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, it's unfortunate, because then everyone else dies and you come back to Snow White, she still hasn't done anything, so...
Yeah, she's just kind of been
it
like
was a weird trade-off. I don't know. I disagree with how the show decided to handle its pacing, but it gets a higher score than Trickster and Occultic 9 because it was at least a plot, and Joe and I at least watched it for a while, because there were good characters in it.
Yeah, there
we
was
sound
lots
really
of good
bitter
things
because
about it.
all of them died.
Yeah.
But dying is not necessarily bad.
Yeah. If you are a huge hardcore Magical Girl stan, I'm pretty sure that you will enjoy this.
I mean, this show, like, it has a type. There are people that really like it.
It does have a type, and if you want to check it out, go ahead and check it out. But there's tons of more Magical Girls out there.
There's so many Magical Girls you could watch other than this.
You could definitely give this one a pass.
Yeah.
And if you want to, like, figure out what happened after that, then you could just read the light novel or whatever.
Yeah, there's a bunch of light novels. They apparently get, I don't know, fucking crazier over time. I feel like this was a show where, like...
It needs like a two-cur. I feel like if
I
it
don't
was...
even think it needs a two-car. I think that just this is a show that is very clearly aimed at the people that read the light novels.
Yes, that's true.
You probably could have done this first arc here if it goes on. You probably could have done this first arc in 2 or 3 episodes.
Maybe not. I'd give
3,
it
4.
I would give it.
I would give it. Yeah, like 5 or 6, like half a season-ish. The issue is that the second book I don't think can be covered in half a season.
Yes.
As far as from what I've heard about it,
Right.
so it leaves them in an awkward spot. Basically, this first series got a little bit too stretched out, and it was, I don't know, it was weirdly bungeed. I guess. Its biggest sin was pacing. It could have been a good show if it did not weirdly caterpillar its pacing and had more time. Honestly, have more of an exposition fest at the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't think that people need to be as afraid of that as they are.
Yeah, well, so finally, Magical Girl Raising Project out of our lives, probably for the better of this. So now we're going to get
now, the other show with magic in it.
Rounding out our low tiers is Magic Cube.
Magic Cube.
I forgot that this show existed at several points.
I also, forgot that this show existed,
And
which is a
she
problem
watched-
because I was the one that, was covering it and watched the whole thing.
I watched the first 3 episodes and I stopped watching because they did the one character I cared about and then I didn't care.
There are more bits of it that you need to go back and watch because that character is a lot more prevalent. But in any case, we'll get into. So there's a lot more pros to talk about with this show as sort of the sign of it topping out the low tier as opposed to being at the bottom of it. Pros, cute uniforms. It's the entire reason I started watching this show. Is that the uniforms are just really cute. And they changed it to summer uniforms at some point, which was just abysmal, but the winter uniforms, whatever, with all the jackets and the super overwrought details, it's a very Otome game, and I liked it a lot. Yuri and Aoi are blessings. They are beautiful blessings just come from God to save us.
So before we started recording, she actually caught up with Magic Cube in the last couple episodes.
I had to watch the last
I've watched exactly 0 episodes of Magic Cube. The first episode she had to watch, Yuri and Aoi were focuses. I love them immediately.
Exactly. If it was just Yuri and Aoi and the main character, this would be
totally
a great
watch
show.
This fucking show.
This would be a great show.
That's 2 Men and a Baby, but or a Three's Company. That's a Three's Company thing, except there were 2 girls.
Yeah,
weird
it would be. This could be a show.
It could be, but it just whatever.
The story was coherent, so I will give it points for that. Story was coherent, albeit slightly absurd.
I mean, that's par for the course.
In the way that Otome games do. It's really unfortunate that we didn't get to do a weekly covering of this towards the end because the main character almost dies out of nowhere. She just develops the magic cancer and almost dies. This is not a joke. But hey, at least she doesn't get kidnapped.
That's true.
Show was funny both intentionally and unintentionally. Basically, Aoi was sort of a comedy character, and I was a very much good-natured. Aoi was just so good. Every scene that he was in was just good because he was a character with a personality.
He was just an oddball. He just did stuff, and there was what are you doing? He's just
sorry.
He's just huh?
Yeah, he's good. And basically, the thing is that the show, for the most part, was of middling quality. It never dipped into being truly garbage until the very, very end. And the very, very end, we're going to talk about it. The last episode of the show.
It's actually kind of a theme where a lot of shows that kind of fell apart at the end.
Not a lot of them.
Yeah, well,
we have this one and one more. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Cons. Nobody besides Yuri and Aoi have a personality. Their personalities are fantastic, but nobody else has one. That's a lie. I guess other people have one, but they're very one note. And so I thought it was kind of weird that there was so much time put into developing Aoi when he was not the main boy. Yeah. It was really strange. He had way more personality than the guy who actually won. It suffered from a lot of capital Q quality, which is a serious problem given that 95% of the reason I've watched the show is because the uniforms were pretty.
Well,
and I really needed the rest of the show to be pretty to go with it.
In defense of that, this is Sunrise's 3rd show on top of Classicaloid and Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphan Season 2.
Classicaloid looked fucking great. I mean, I don't necessarily blame this show for not being their main focus, because that's fine.
But you can tell where Sunrise is dumping their money towards.
The other thing is also, but you can tell that the animation just wasn't very good, and that's still an issue.
Yeah.
Lots of episodes felt really pointless. Basically, every episode that didn't have Aoi or Yuri or progress the main plot was just a little fart in the wind, and even a lot of the main plot stuff was really pointless. It felt pointless at parts. And what the fuck was that last episode? So at this point, the main character is in a coma from I don't know, having magic cancer. I'm gonna turn the microphone towards myself because you all need to experience this in high definition.
I don't know what happened. Please tell me.
Main character just develops, I don't know, magic cancer. Apparently her mother also had magic cancer. Maybe it didn't actually die in a car crash. I wasn't paying that close attention. And she's comatose. And for the first 15 minutes out of the last 20 of the last episode, every single guy character just goes in and, like, talks to her comatose body about how much she means to them. And this goes on for 15 minutes. That's so long. That's so long, especially given the earlier gripe that we had where nobody has a personality besides Yuri, who isn't even here, and Aoi, who, like, is only one out of what? How many are there?
6.
That's 6?
Yes.
Yeah, I can count. Like, 1 out of 6 of these characters has a real personality, and, like, and the thing is, we've heard all of that before, you know? They've, like, taken plenty of opportunities to say these things. These are not big emotional reveals, and they're taking up a fuck ton of time in the last episode. Quit that shit. Also, other serious problem. Why was the Tarantino cut at the beginning to episode fucking 9?
Yeah.
It's-
Honestly.
Like, we got to episode 9, and I saw the part that was Tarantino at the beginning, and I was like,
What the hell?
because it was not a bait and switch like it was for Magical Girl Raising Project. Because Magical Girl Raising Project was like Tarantino moment, also ended earlier, but was supposed to be a bait and switch. And this was just weirdly, I don't know. It suffered a lot from the plot structure of the game, I think, being really fucking strange. Like, there's no reason not to have the festival be your endgame thing. Like, I don't know why they didn't do that.
It just doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Just take more time to do the festival thing. Why? In any case, I don't know. It didn't do a lot to offend me, unlike the shows that are underneath it. Mostly it was just boring. And those of you who were here last season and saw how I treated Murose Mononoke know that boring is actually a pretty serious sin for me. So it is topping out the low tier, but its final verdict is 2 out of 5. It did worse. It's weird. I feel compelled to compare it to Murose Mononoke because it was sort of boring in the same way. But Murose Mononoke didn't have any really, like, super bad moments and had really, really well integrated CG, which is still, like, amazing and I don't understand. And this just was worse. It was just worse. There's a lot of really weird. The last episode was just a total fucking disaster, and it tried to do some weird stuff that just didn't make any sense. So we're giving this a 2 out of 5. It's topping out the low tier, but I still would not recommend this.
Yeah.
As far as Otome game adaptations go, like, you don't really have that many good ones. So,
Like I said, like, I really, like, watching this made me like, man, I bet the game was way better than this.
yeah,
I really wish I could play that game and just play Aoi's Route.
yeah, seriously.
Or the alternative is you could just, I don't know, play Mystic Messenger over and over again. Just that.
Like me.
But they don't have an Aoi. They don't have like
It's true. They don't have an Aoi. They don't have like a weird guy.
Oh wow.
I mean, they have a weird guy, but he's a different kind of weird
yeah,
guy.
he's a different.
Yeah, he's
he's
different.
he's meme lord weird. That's like.
He's me, Lord Weird, and then I have clinical depression.
No, it's a crippling depression.
Depression. In any
Yeah.
case.
So that is the end of our low tiers. We're going to be back very quick with our mid tier, which means we're getting into some of our more higher praise shows, which include Keijo, Bungo Stray Dogs, all those kinds of things. And later on, we might get a surprise placing because we still got our mid tier to go. We got our top tier. We got to place some pretty high level shows like Izetta, Drifters, and of course, everybody wants to know what we think of Yuri on Ice, but that is going to be for another time. Until then, I am Joe.
And Emily.
And I'm Mia.
I hope you like this. If you want to watch the next part, click on the link. You'll be sent to the next video, and we will see you in the mid-tier.
Bye.